It would take a fool not to respect perfection. But what about love? Do we truly love perfection? Or do our sensory faculties require the presence of flaws to remain alert? Meaning that a car design can be too flawless to stir up passion. On paper, the Mercedes SL of the R129 generation has all the ingredients for a beloved icon. In reality though, it's a car that many appreciate, yet few fall for head over heels. Maybe that is because it was designed more for the head than the heart? This is indeed peculiar, as the SL is a roadster. And a roadster obviously is as inherently romantic, sensuous a car as they come. Leave it to the Swabians then to add a generous helping of reason and functionality to a type of automobile that's all about indulgence. Not that the R129 generation didn't indulge. It was a bona fide engineering tour de force, featuring almost everything that was advanced and desirable in the late 80s. Not to mention innovations like an automatic rollover bar and seatbelts integrated into the seat. Because only a car that's safe is a car that could be truly enjoyed. Also, its makers might have reasoned. Because Mercedes in those days did things the only way they deemed right and proper, the Mercedes way. The R129's exterior reflected this unique perspective of what separated any car from a Mercedes. Neither the pop-up headlights nor single-color rear lights that seemed a prerequisite for any self-respecting performance car at the time were found on the SL. Instead, onlookers would need to make do with unspectacular light shapes, little chrome and unadorned sheet metal. In short, an evolution and culmination of a decade's worth of Mercedes design. In several ways, the R129 marked the peak of vertical affinity and horizontal homogeneity, the design ethos instigated under Mercedes chief designer Bruno Sacco. Vertical affinity and horizontal homogeneity was about intentionally creating car designs that were timeless, a feat that appears to have been achieved here with flying colors. For the R129 hasn't really aged. That's in part due to the exquisite components used for its construction. But mostly it's because this SL never was supposed to be a fashionable piece of design in the first place. It was supposed to be a good piece of design. That build quality, and the three-pointed star on its grille, initially did suffice to create desire among the dentists, divorce lawyers, retired company directors, and housewives it had been created for. But over time, they and everybody else got used to the SL's timelessness, which was when its maker decided to apply a few facelifts, each one ruining the R129 a bit more in the process, as they foisted fashion upon a design that had been made for the ages, rather than a season or two. A design that, as the 90s started fading out and customers found themselves craving emotional cars, appeared somewhat dull. Or maybe too perfect. Nothing about the R129 shouts. Its stance is very planted, but in no way aggressive. Its proportions are so very balanced that they don't register to the extent they deserve. Its surfaces are perfectly clean, literally so. Even the uncharacteristically blatant fake air outlets behind the front wheels are a graphically pleasing nod to the celebrated Gullwing 300 SL, rather than shamelessly deceptive decorum. One car the R129 refuses to nod to with much enthusiasm is its immediate predecessor, the R107. Having been in production for 18 years, throughout which it utterly dominated its market sector, one might assume that maintaining the R107's essential style would have been the obvious thing to do for Mercedes. Yet the R107's chrome-laden brand of glamour was eschewed with a vengeance. Instead, the all-new SL for the year 1989 closed an altogether different circle. What had been started a decade earlier with the exceptional W126 S-Class reached its apex with the R129. Frankly, creating more timeless a piece of luxury car design would seem an impossible task. And from today's perspective, the R21 cannot even be accused of looking rather too bulky, as was the case back in its day. Instead, it looks astonishingly calm and composed. As mentioned before, its proportions are good, but not eye-catchingly so. Every joint, seam and graphical element has been placed on a rational basis, the basis of gute Form, the foundation of German post-war modernist design. There isn't even much chrome to be found on the R129, as that would be too blunt a means of communicating that this indeed was one of the best cars in the world. Instead, there's just some anodized aluminium trim to tell the particularly observant onlooker that this is a car built to last. Unlike most car designs, the R129's shape wasn't so much drawn by the designers as it was shaped by the clay modelers. For what defines this SL is its surfacing, the way its sheet metal has been molded. As with all Mercedes models of that period, it looks exceedingly solid, as if cast rather than pressed. It's this extraordinary display of Mercedes clay modelers' craftsmanship that defines the car, as highlighted by the contrast between the finished product and the early design sketches and prototypes, which all looked rather more generic than the 90s SL we know today. Having said that, enthusiasts tend to fall for extraordinary proportions or highly original, idiosyncratic details, rather than flawless surfaces and strictly evolutionary shapes. Is it an absence of quirks that prevents the R129 from being loved the same way, say, its Brock predecessor is? Or do we maybe need to redefine our definition of idiosyncrasy? In today's age of postmodern mannerisms, character is engineered into design from the start, resulting in cars that often are a bit like the shouty bores one meets at a party, introducing themselves by stating that their friends call them a little crazy. Nothing about the R129 is a little crazy. This is a serious car created by serious people, which shows in its concept and absolutely each and every detail. And it's exactly this earnestness, this obvious dedication to creating something that isn't cool, but the best, that lends this SL not just charisma, but gravitas. There are very few automotive designs as consistent as the R129's. That in itself deserves celebrating. And that's before we compare this Mercedes' sophisticated simplicity with the vacuous elaboration that defines much of today's car design landscape. Gravitas cannot be created, it's earned. Even so, if one had to name any individual deserving credit here, it's Bruno Sacco. For it was this Italian designer who had the firmest grasp of German design values and hence pushed Mercedes design to achieve such extraordinary levels of sobriety throughout the 1980s. In several ways, his vertical homogeneity and horizontal affinity design ethos reached its peak with the R129. Unsurprisingly then, this SL was one of Sacco's personal favorites among the dozens of designs he oversaw over the course of 24 years as chief designer. Which really says it all. The R129 refuses to age the way most car designs do, just like its makers intended. That may make it somewhat less accessible, but certainly no less interesting a piece of design than other, more obvious classics. And don't we have enough obviousness all around ourselves right now, anyway?